Good afternoon, guys. Pretty much everything has come against me making this video. And even now, like, my neighbors are getting rowdy as I'm trying to film. So I hope that doesn't affect the sound quality, but I'm still going to do it. I have my Bible here, and I've had this Bible for years now. I couldn't even say how long, probably over 10 years. And this verse on the front, Luke 1:45, it says, "Blessed is she who has believed that the Lord would fulfill his promises to her." And I truly believe that God will fulfill the promises that he has made to me and the covenant that he and I have made together. And because of that confidence, I'm going to confidently share my journey, because the only way that you can see God working through my life, past, present, and future, and if you subscribe and follow along as you see him work in my life, because I submit my life to him. So I'm just going to start this out by saying, Lord Jesus, I hope the right people hear my story. I pray that I do it justice. Lord God, I thank you for your presence. I just bless everyone that is joining me today. And I ask that you stand with them. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Amen. So I guess trigger warning. I hate saying that, but that's what it is. I mentioned in one of my past videos that I grew up in a Christian abusive household. And, you know, there's some verses that say, like, spoil the rod and spare the child. And, you know, the Lord chastises those that he loves. And chastise actually translates to severely beats. Yeah, so I wasn't real happy with God, to be honest. And this was my stepfather that treated me this way. My mom just was kind of in a shell. I think she was traumatized that she'd married this man, and those Christian beliefs go so deep that, like, it took her so long to be able to leave him, you know, because you don't divorce. Anyway, as I was growing up, when this kind of stuff would happen, I would call the police, because I had a strong sense of justice, and, like, I just felt like that stuff shouldn't be happening to me and my siblings. And I would call the police, and they would come by and they would say, "You live in his house. He can treat you however he wants." And I was like, okay, that's what I deserve, you know? And it's crazy the way that the brain works, because as soon as I realized that people were okay with the way that I was being treated, I lost so much of myself, you know, and I just fell into depression, and I just didn't have any regard for my life. And I had a real disdain towards God, because who wouldn't? So I actually ended up moving out of home when I was, I think, 13. I was like, not like legally emancipated. You don't have to do that in Australia, but I was like financially emancipated. So I got like Centrelink help with paying my rent. Anyway, I'm so bad with like going into like details that just don't even matter. And anyway. So I moved out actually into a girls' shelter when I was like 13, 14. And, you know, that was hard for me, but it was the best thing to keep me safe, you know. And when I was there, because it was a shelter, there were women there that had a lot of problems, and I was treated really horribly there. And because, you know, I was the one who was young and full of opportunity as far as they were concerned, they asked me to leave. And so I was just out in the world for a long time. Oh, did you see how badly I just did that eyebrow? Anyway, I was just surviving for such a long time. And I used to, like, honestly fantasize about, like, my knight in shining armor, my prince who was going to come and save me. And, you know, I had that fairy tale dream in my mind. And, you know, how his family would be my family. And I would have a dad that would treat me well. And, you know, I put so much thought into it, you know. I was like, I can manifest this, you know. Oh, sorry if I'm putting the mirror over my face. I'm trying to do my makeup. Because I think if I don't, I will probably cry. And I want you guys to see how God has worked in my life, and I want you to see where I'm at now and the truth of who I am right now, so that you can see God move along my journey, because I believe that he will fulfill the promises that he's made for me. Amen. Okay, so when I was in my teens, I'm going to take a break for a second. So during my teen years, I really suffered with addiction. I drank a lot. I was smoking weed. And I had a lot of anger issues. And it's a very long story of how it happened. But can you see it in the light? I broke a window and basically nearly lost my arm. I cut through the ulnar nerve, like 3/4 of the way, and then all the way through a little bit down, like it was just messy. And I cut through my artery, right? And because I just didn't have a great life, I wasn't a very happy person. I didn't have any value for myself. I kind of was like, cool, this is an out. You know, I had always been like, the addiction it's self-harm, you know, and I just hated myself because everyone else hated me as far as I was concerned. And anyway, as I was, my sister drove me to the hospital, right? And I could just kind of feel my life leaving me. And I was very calm, like I was very relaxed. And I just felt this like eternal peace and quiet. And I go, God, if you're real, if you have some sort of intention for my life, then please save it. But if not, let me go. I'm happy to go. I'm grateful for my time. You know, I kind of just thought that life was not going to get better. So it was like, you know, this is as good as it gets. I'm happy to be out. I was 17. Anyway, got to the hospital, and like in front of the doctor, my artery clotted. I don't know the correct terminology, but it stopped bleeding just all on its own. And like the doctor, like, at the time, he, like, called all these other doctors in and was like, look at this, like, yeah, and I was alive. My hand didn't really work that well, and it still doesn't really work that well, but I was alive. And I actually sustained some pretty severe nerve injuries. Of course I did. And I had to be on a lot of strong painkillers. And because I still had this, like, horrible, these addictions and these problems, I turned away from God. And I genuinely, mentally, I said, if God is happy to forgive people, like, when, you know, they just ask for forgiveness, I'll ask him for forgiveness when I want to do it, when I feel like it. And I literally, like, turned my back from God. And I was on daily morphine at the time, and I was abusing it. I was drinking, and, you know, I was an idiot. Not to say I'm not now, but I've learned in a way. I started dating a guy that sold drugs. And together we sold drugs. Yeah, I hate even thinking about it. Anyway, while we were together, I had an opportunity to do acid, or lysergic acid. I don't know, I don't know what people call it other than that. And I was, like, a little bit scared, but I really wanted to do it. And so for the first time in a very long time, I got before God on acid, and he met me where I was. And I truly, still to this day, believe that the entity that I engaged with was God. Yeah, it's a long story, and I'm sure I will make a video about the actual experience one day, or maybe not, because, like, you know, casting pearls before swine and all that. But yeah, it was the first time in a very long time that I had engaged with him, and he just showed me so much love. He showed me so much love. I was, like, tearing up thinking about it. And I was really caught up because I was now engaged to this man, and he wasn't a Christian. You know, he had no intentions of changing his life at all. And I actually, like, prayed to God, and I was like, you know, if he's not going to change, if he's not going to grow, separate us, you know. And we got, I don't know what the word, they, like, raided our house, and they took us to the police station for interviews. And because I was now, like, 20 or something like that, 19 or something, I was an adult, and I was facing, like, literally 8 years in prison. And my fiance went in for questioning first, and they just, like, left me sitting in the waiting room of the police station. It was literally horrible. They already took my phone, and I'm just sitting there with my brain and my thoughts. And I just, like, broke down internally to God, and I just was like, I am so sorry. You gave me my life twice, you know. You put me on this earth, and then I nearly died, and you gave me my life back to me, and I wasted it. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. And I just was praying, like, God, if you could just make it so that my time in jail would be like beneficial, you know. I could tell people about you. I could do something. Like, please don't let me be wasted, you know. And I was just so sorry. And as I'm having this, like, genuinely, like, existential crisis, this police officer comes up to me and, like, takes me into the interview station or whatever it is. And I sit down, and he straight away walks over to the cameras and turns them off. And I actually was, like, scared, because I was like, what's he gonna do to me that he can't film? You know, like, what's about to happen here? And he looked at me and he said, you had nothing to do with this. Do you understand me? And I had, like, already accepted my fate, you know? So I was like, no, I don't understand you. Like, I'm going to jail. I deserve it. I'm a loser, you know? And he goes, you had nothing to do with this. Do you understand me? And I just kind of looked at him like, bro, no. And I just was like, and he goes, you have a great friend in a very high place. And I just knew that it was God. And I was like, okay, all right, okay. And he goes, are you ready? And I was like, all right. And he turned the cameras on, and he was like yelling at me, like, he just, like, it was crazy, like, and I was like, I had nothing to do with it, you know. And there was, like, at one point where, like, he nearly broke me, and he was like, you got this. And oh, what the hell? Sorry about that. My fiance at the time, however, he told the police everything he'd ever done in his life. I actually ended up watching his police footage back, and I was, like, traumatized, because he, like, anyway, not the point of the story. We got home, and I was like, God, I can't break up with him. Like, I'm just scared. Like, you got to separate us. Like, you got to do it. And he literally just, like, walked up to me. Like, it was, like, immediate. Straight away, it was like, hey, I don't think we should be together anymore. Got on a train and left. Like, it was crazy. So anyway, I went through a long period of healing. I went back to my mom's house. I was like, God, you know, I'm not going to waste this life. I'm not going to waste it. Like, you've given me my life now 3 times over. I'm like a cat right now. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste it. I spent hours with my grandfather learning theology and understanding and putting that effort in. And anyway, I had been in a car accident while I was still with my ex-fiance, and I actually, like, won a payout, and I like turned to God, and I was like, you know, this is yours. This is your money. You do with it whatever you want to do. I want it to, like, service your kingdom. And I ended up going as a missionary to Mexico and Bali, and I became a chaplain here in Australia. I had a lot of pretty incredible experiences, and I was able to fund things for people that they, never imagined possible. And yeah, I learned some incredible things. And while I was over there, someone gave me this word, like a word in the spirit, about a little girl. And as he's like explaining her to me, I like can see her in my mind. And I'm like, she doesn't look anything like me. And he's like, this is your daughter. Like, you guys are going to have so much love. Like, this is your daughter. And I just kind of was like, okay. Anyway, I came home. I got involved with a guy from church who literally was just a bad spirit trying to take me down, I swear. And I left him, and I thought, gosh, I just am committed to being single for the rest of my life. I never want to be abused again. I never want to deal with that kind of behavior again. Like, I'm done, right? And I ended up meeting one of my like high school best friends, and he grew up damn fine. And we started talking because his daughter was the same age as my niece, and we decided to, have a play date for them. And this girl came over, this little girl, she was like 4, and it was the girl that I like saw in my mind from Mexico. And I was like, oh, I have to help her. Like, I didn't know my purpose with her, man, but I just was like, anything she needs. And sorry, because I was like eternally committed to, do you see how much blush I put on? Anyway, because I was like committed to being single, like it didn't even cross my mind that maybe there was something here for me. Anyway, he ended up moving in with my family, and his daughter. They had shared custody between the mom and him. And we ended up just getting engaged. Like, we literally went from like best friends to being engaged. And he was my knight in shining armor, everything that I had ever dreamed of. And we lived in this beautiful house that my mom's friend owned. So I just felt like so confident there, like nothing was gonna go wrong. It couldn't. We got married there in the driveway. And just after we got married, we found out that my stepdaughter's mother was abusing her. And it was like, a horrible revelation. But it was also really triggering for me as a survivor of this kind of abuse, So I started suffering with mental health stuff, and I ended up quitting my job as a chaplain because I just was like, I need to take the time to focus on my family. And I fell pregnant, and we were so excited. My stepdaughter was so excited, like everyone was so excited. And when I was like 8 months pregnant with my little boy, we found out that this friend had sold the house and we had to move. And it was like a housing crisis in the area that I live. So we didn't have anywhere to go. My husband was working on a property. So anyway, we ended up moving in with his family on another property. And I'm so grateful that they had us, I am so grateful. And, they saved us from having to move away from my family, which I would not have survived without. unfortunately, I had just like built up this idea of like family so much in my mind. And I didn't realize that their sense of family was really fractured, and they didn't see me as a member of their family. So my behavior was inappropriate because I wasn't welcome, like for me to feel comfortable there was like offensive to them, and big issues came up, big issues. And my stepdaughter's behavior started getting worse, and started becoming a little bit more dangerous. And when I gave birth to my son, she many times was violent towards him. And not that she ever succeeded in the violence that she was attempting, because I was always there. But it was crazy to like watch it, and I was like the only person who saw it, because I was the only person who was watching. And honestly, it was such a crazy time. It was such a crazy time, and the family hated me, so I was completely alone. And they started to treat me as if Anyway, this is a really long story, and I hope I'm telling it good. I need you guys to know where I'm at so you can know where I'm going, because my life will never be the way that it was again. Anyway, I worked really hard to repair their family property, respect them, love them. I spent time with the father, learning from him. I was so excited to experience a father figure. And not many people understand, but children who suffer trauma often experience this thing called conflation. And it's like they feel like their needs are only important when they're intense, if that makes sense. So for an example, I remember my daughter once telling me that someone pulled their pants down at school and showed her, and I went and like spoke to the school, and what had happened was a student in another class, like it was crazy figuring, and it took me so long, but a student in another class had shown their skins to another boy, and it was like skin colored skins. It was like two boys showing their football skins to each other. A girl in the other class saw it and like got shocked, and then the teacher had to like explain it, right? And she's heard that story, but like she doesn't think she's important enough to just tell that story, so she's got to change it and be like, does that make sense? Please. Anyway, so my daughter-in-law, my stepdaughter, she started doing some pretty crazy things and saying some pretty crazy things, and she tried to hurt my son in a way that I'm not going to talk about, but I was overwhelmed. I couldn't watch her 24/7, and people say like, oh, that's what you're supposed to watch a kid 24/7. Like I would have to make her wait outside the door so I could like peek and see her while I would go to the toilet, because otherwise she was doing something heinous, to be honest. And so she made some bad choices, and I rang my husband's mother, who lived at a different property, and I just kind of begged her to take her, just give me a break, give me some space. And I spent that time, it was about a week that she was away, I spent that time praying and trying to just heal from my past that was affecting the way that I could parent. And I I contacted child safety so many times because I just felt like I needed support. I was feeling traumatized and I didn't have the finances or the resources to help myself and my children. And that was really humbling for me. But you know, sometimes that's just life and you have to accept it. Anyway, I spent $8,000 on this house. We had just signed a 5-year lease with the family because family's family, but everything needs a contract. And so I spent $8,000 and I painted and I did up a beautiful room for her so that she felt loved. And I put safety implements in place. I literally spent every cent that I had saved for years. Anyway. And when my daughter came home, she said, "Why weren't you at that meeting, Mom?" And I'm like, "What meeting? What are you talking about?" And she goes, "The meeting about how you're mean." And I was just like, oh my God, I can't, these people just don't trust me. They don't like me. And I was just very upset. And my delusions of a fantasy life were just shattered because they didn't love me. They didn't want me as a part of their family and they didn't see me as part of their family. And that hurt. And so I was like, no, we're going to go get your stuff. You're not going to go back there anymore. And I do acknowledge that I was angry. I do acknowledge that maybe I should have taken some time. But, oh God, this was so much for me. It was just so much. Anyway, we got there and I didn't even go into the home. I didn't go into the home initially. My daughter came out with things that weren't hers and I asked her to take them back and she started chucking a tantrum. So I went to return the items because I didn't want there to be an issue. And immediately everyone's screaming at me. And my husband stood in between me and them and I backed away. And as I stepped off the driveway, I yelled out, "Stop, you're scaring my child." And my mother-in-law screamed at me, "She's not your child," and jumped up and grabbed a bunch of my hair. And I just grabbed it back. I didn't hit her or anything, but I just that was just my reaction. And then the brothers and the father attacked me. The neighbors caught it on video and I just left. This is my life, This is what they told me. I couldn't go home. I was homeless now. I wasn't welcome home. I had to send my babies to go and stay with my mom while I just screamed in a car park because I was so distraught. The police ended up coming to find me because my mother-in-law had gone to the police station and reported that I had assaulted her. And when they saw me and saw the injuries on me, they understood that I was not the attacker. They got the video footage later on and it just, And then they told me that they were going to be charging with attempted murder. And all of a sudden, the way that I had been treated in my life changed. I never valued my life, so I never understood the way that my stepfather risked it. and the many millions of times that he nearly took my life. And I never saw it as attempted murder because people told me it was okay. And it was just something that I had just swallowed. And so for the police to then tell me that, like, this is something that's completely not okay, and, like, you know, it was crazy for me. We ended up spending months in motels. We had nothing, so we had spent our savings on this house. Like, we couldn't even go back there. It's nearly been a year since that happened. I think after about 5 or 6 months living in motels, the Salvation Army gave us a place to live. And I'm so grateful. I find it ironic that I was begging God for help and begging him to save my family. And he sent the army to save me. I just, you know, I feel important and I feel loved. But anyway, because of all of this, and, you know, now Child Safety finally paid attention to the millions of times I called them. And I have to meet with them, and they get to tell me how I get to live my life and how I get to parent. And not to say that what I was doing was wrong. I was not abusing my children in any way. But that's how child safety works. They have a model that they have to fit. And in the meantime, I'm dealing with a lot of trauma. And it's brought up so much horrible history for me. And brought up so many things that I didn't think mattered to me anymore. You know, I didn't think I cared. But I do, and I did. And yeah. So I have been committing my all to God. I have been praying. I have been weeping at his feet. My life will change. I will never be homeless again because God will save me. God is going to save me because I have put my trust and my faith in him. And I wanted to talk about where I'm at now because I want people to know that you can heal from this abuse. I will heal from the abuse. People can't take your life from you. They can't take your joy. And I'm getting mine back, you know. Not that people took it from me, but I let it go. I didn't have the right foundations in place. So I'm being honest about where I am so together we can build a new foundation. I'm hoping this week, I've had a really bad back, but I'm hoping we can do some trauma releasing exercises together and use some binaural beats, which is like brain therapy. And some people don't believe in that. That's fine. I do believe in vibrational therapy because the world is held together by sound waves, the vibration of sound waves. And God spoke the earth into being. Amen. Anyway, I hope this wasn't too much of a trauma dump. I want to be real. I want people to know the honesty of the lows. So when I get to the highs, they know that they can do it too. I'm like got teary eyes, so I'm gonna stop and I'll come back and show my makeup because I was doing that for the whole first half of the video. So thank you guys. I'm trying to get a good angle of lighting, but there's so much mess. This is my makeup. Bye.